When my ex stood up in court and said she's emotionally unstable, she hit our daughter, I swear, the room spun. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just stared at him, trying to understand how the man I once loved could lie like that under oath. He looked right at the judge like he was telling the weather, calm, collected, cold. Then his lawyer handed over a folder. Inside were photos. Bruises on my daughter's arm. Caleb said I lost control, that I hurt her in some kind of breakdown. The judge held the pictures in both hands. He didn't say anything. He just looked at me. I felt my stomach drop. My hands were shaking. I tried to speak, but my voice caught in my throat. I wanted to scream, "That's not true. I would never hurt her," but I could see it. The doubt on the judge's face. And in that moment, I realized I might lose my daughter forever. And then, from the far end of the courtroom, my 9-year-old daughter, Arya, stood up. She clutched her pink tablet to her chest and walked straight to the front of the courtroom. She was so small next to the judge's bench, but her voice didn't shake. "I recorded what really happened that night," she said. The room froze. Everyone turned toward her. Caleb's smirk disappeared. His lawyer shifted uncomfortably. The judge looked startled. And in that silence, heavy, loaded, unbearable, I knew everything was about to change. After the divorce, it was just Arya and me. We lived in a modest 2-bedroom apartment just outside Tacoma. The building wasn't fancy, peeling paint on the stairwell, neighbors who kept odd hours, but it was ours. I had a small balcony where I kept succulents and one brave tomato plant. Arya decorated her room with fairy lights and posters of baby animals. I worked full-time at a local dental office and picked up extra shifts when I could. Money was tight, but I was proud of what we were building together. Quiet stability, peace. Caleb, my ex, wasn't around much. After the split, he moved to another part of the city and only saw Arya on weekends. That was by choice. For the first year, he didn't even push for more time. He seemed content with the distance. And honestly, so was I. His presence in our lives had always felt like a storm cloud. Unpredictable, loud, always on the edge of something darker. But then, 2 years after the divorce was finalized, something changed. He became aggressive, demanding. He started showing up to Arya's school unannounced, texting her nonstop, calling me names in front of her when she didn't respond the way he wanted. When I tried to set boundaries, he threatened to take me to court, said I was turning our daughter against him, said I wasn't stable. At first, I brushed it off. I had documentation, messages, missed visitations, no history of mental illness, no history of violence. I was doing everything I could to protect Arya. I thought the truth would be enough. Then the letter came. It was a thick envelope with the court's seal on it. Caleb was filing for full custody. I sat at the kitchen table, holding the papers with both hands. Arya was in her room, humming to herself, making a video for her cousin on her tablet. She didn't know what was happening. I didn't want her to know, not yet. I called my mother first. Nina. She raised 3 kids on her own after our dad left. She's tough, no nonsense, always speaks in absolutes. "We'll fight this," she said the second she heard the words. "You're not losing your daughter to that man." Then I called my younger brother, Jace. He's in his 3rd year of law school and helps me understand the legal process when it feels like a different language. He didn't sugarcoat anything. "This could get ugly," he said, "but you have a strong case. Just stay calm and document everything." I tried to do just that. I organized every screenshot, every school email, every incident report I had filed when Caleb lost his temper during pickups. I talked to Arya's teacher and counselor. I printed years' worth of visitation logs. I filled a binder. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Caleb wasn't just trying to increase custody. He was trying to erase me, discredit me. It wasn't about parenting, it was about punishment. The week before the hearing, I barely slept. Arya asked me if I was sick. I told her no. I told her I was just busy. She looked at me and said, "You're scared." I didn't know how to answer that, so I kissed her forehead and changed the subject. On the morning of the hearing, I dressed Arya in her favorite yellow cardigan. She brought her tablet like she always did for long waits. I didn't know how to prepare her for what was coming. I didn't even know if she would be allowed in the courtroom. When we walked into that courthouse, everything felt too big. The walls were too white. The air was too still. Caleb stood at the front next to his lawyer in a tailored suit and that practiced look of concern he always wore when he needed to seem like the good guy. He looked straight at me and smiled just a little. That was when I knew. He wasn't just confident. He thought he was going to win. He thought he had already won. And as I held my daughter's hand in mine, I prayed that the truth would be enough, that everything I had done to protect her would matter, that the court would see through him. But I didn't know then what he was planning, and I didn't know how much worse it was about to get. The courtroom was colder than I expected, not physically, though the air conditioning was turned up high, but in the way it drained warmth from everything. No smiles, no kindness, just hard lines, stiff chairs, and eyes that watched without feeling. I sat beside my attorney, Lisa Freeman, a sharp, methodical woman who had helped several single mothers like me fight unfair custody claims. She wore a charcoal blazer and kept her notes in perfect order. I liked her because she didn't make promises. She gave me facts. Across the room, Caleb looked completely composed. His posture was straight, his tie perfectly knotted, his expression carefully neutral. He wasn't the man I had cried about late at night or screamed at behind locked doors. He was the version of himself he wanted the world to believe in. The judge entered. Gray suit, wire-rimmed glasses, no smile. He glanced at the file in front of him and nodded. Let's begin. Caleb's lawyer, a man named Mark Halston, opened the proceedings like it was a script he had practiced dozens of times. Your Honor, we are here today not out of spite, but out of concern for a child's well-being. My client believes that Ms. Bennett is emotionally unstable and that this instability has resulted in harm, specifically physical harm, to their daughter, Arya Roston. I felt my entire body tense. Lisa leaned slightly toward me. Don't react, she whispered. Not yet. Then he said it. Ms. Bennett struck her daughter during an emotional outburst just 3 weeks ago. We have documentation, photographic evidence, and witness statements to support this. I couldn't stop myself. That's not true. The judge raised a hand to silence me. You'll have your turn, Ms. Bennett. Halston pulled out a manila folder and handed it to the bailiff. Inside were 4 photos. Bruises, small dark marks on what looked like Arya's upper arm and shoulder. The timestamps were recent. My breath caught in my chest. They looked real. The judge studied them carefully. His jaw shifted slightly. He looked at me for the first time, not with curiosity, but with caution. Lisa stood. Your Honor, we were not given prior disclosure of these images. We object to their submission without proper authentication. But it didn't matter. The damage was done. The judge looked back down. They'll be admitted pending verification. I turned to Arya. She was seated quietly behind me with her court-appointed guardian. She looked small in the oversized chair, legs swinging slightly, tablet clutched to her chest. Her face was pale. She wouldn't look at me. I whispered to Lisa, I never touched her. I've never hit her. He's lying. She nodded. We'll challenge it, but he's playing for emotion. We have to be smart. Caleb was called to testify. He stepped up like a seasoned actor walking on stage. Your Honor, he began, his voice low and steady. I wish I didn't have to be here. I never imagined I'd have to fight the woman I once loved. But I can't let Arya stay in a home where she's afraid. She came to my house crying. She said her mother yelled at her, grabbed her, then locked herself in her room for hours. I didn't know what to do, so I documented the bruises and brought them here today. He paused, swallowing hard. I'm not trying to take Arya away to hurt Sarai. I just want her to be safe. It was masterful, calculated, almost convincing, until you knew him, until you'd lived with the version of him who threw coffee mugs when arguments didn't go his way, who disappeared for days, then came back with excuses and charm, who stood in this courtroom pretending to be a devoted father while trying to destroy the one person who had kept their daughter safe through everything. My stomach churned. Lisa asked for a recess to review the photos. We were granted 10 minutes. I stepped outside into the hallway and leaned against the cool wall. That's when Arya came to me. She looked up, nervous. Mom, are you okay? I bent down to meet her eyes. I'm okay. Are you? She hesitated. I didn't want to say anything, but I think I need to. I frowned. About what? She looked down at her tablet. I recorded something. From the night he said you hurt me. I wasn't sure if I should show it, but I think I should." She held the tablet tightly, like it was the only thing keeping her upright. In that moment, I didn't know what was on it, but I knew whatever it was, whatever she had recorded, might be the only chance we had left to tell the truth. I knelt in front of Arya in that quiet hallway, the low hum of voices and footsteps echoing in the distance. My chest was still tight from the courtroom. The photos, the lies, the way Caleb looked at me like he was already celebrating, I couldn't shake it. But all of that faded when Arya whispered, "I think I need to show the judge what really happened." She held her pink tablet out to me. It was the one she always brought on long drives or days when she had to wait around at my work. Covered in stickers, the case was fraying at the edges. She pulled up a video in the gallery. "It's from that night," she said, "when he came to drop me off late and you told him not to come inside." I stared at the screen. Her small fingers hovered over the play button. "You recorded this?" I asked. She nodded. I didn't know what else to do. I felt scared. I thought if something happened, I should save it. I looked into her eyes. She wasn't crying, she wasn't trembling, she was serious, calm, like she knew the weight of what she was doing. Lisa stepped out of the courtroom just then and noticed us. "We need to go back in soon," she said. "Did something happen?" I stood and gestured for her to come over. "You need to see this." Arya pressed play. The video started in her room. The angle was from her bookshelf, slightly tilted, showing the doorway and a slice of her bed. Caleb's voice was unmistakable, loud and angry. He wasn't yelling, but his tone was sharp and rising with every word. "You're not answering my calls, Sarai. You think you can just shut me out of her life?" he said off camera. "I asked you not to come in. It's almost midnight. She has school tomorrow," I replied. My voice in the video was tired but firm. The camera shook slightly. Arya must have nudged the tablet when she shifted. Then came the moment. Caleb stepped into frame. His hand reached for Arya, pulling her by the arm toward the hallway. She stumbled forward. He didn't hit her, but he yanked her hard enough to make her cry out. "You're coming with me," he snapped. "No, I'm not," Arya said through tears. "I want to stay with Mom." Then my voice again. "Let her go." The camera didn't catch my face, but it caught his. He looked back, furious, and let go of Arya's arm. She fell back onto her bed. Then the door slammed. The video ended. Lisa was silent. Then she looked at Arya. "Do you understand what this video shows?" Arya nodded. "Would you be willing to tell the judge what happened?" Another nod. She stood up straighter. "I want him to know the truth." We walked back into the courtroom with that tablet like it was the most important piece of evidence in the world. And it was. Lisa requested to address the court again. She asked that Arya be permitted to speak. The judge raised an eyebrow but agreed. "Briefly," he said. Arya walked to the front of the room, holding her tablet like a shield. The judge leaned forward. She looked up and said clearly, "My dad lied. I have a video of what really happened. I recorded it that night because I was scared." She handed the tablet to the bailiff. The judge watched the video in complete silence. No one moved. Caleb sat perfectly still, but his expression changed. His foot began tapping. His lawyer's face drained of color. When the video ended, the judge stared at Caleb for a long time. Then he asked Arya gently, "Is this what happened?" She nodded. "Yes. My mom didn't hurt me." "He did," Lisa turned to me, her voice quiet. "You just got your case back." I didn't speak. I couldn't. The pressure in my chest, the fear I had carried for weeks, began to lift inch by inch. I looked at my daughter, my brave, brilliant daughter, and realized that she had done what no evidence or testimony could. She told the truth. And she did it without fear, and that changed everything. The courtroom wasn't silent. It was stunned. After Arya handed over her tablet and the judge watched the footage, you could feel the entire room shift. Even the air felt heavier, the kind of silence that fills a space after a truth hits too hard to ignore. The judge sat still, holding the tablet like it had weight beyond just plastic and glass. Then he looked up at Arya, who had returned to her seat beside her guardian. "Thank you for being honest," he said. His voice was calm, but his expression had changed. Whatever doubt had been there before was gone. Then he turned to Caleb. "Mr. Roston, please stand." Caleb stood slowly. He was pale. For the first time since the hearing started, he looked unsure of himself. The judge continued, "This court takes allegations of abuse very seriously. Your sworn statement claimed that the mother physically harmed your daughter. You provided photographs as evidence, and yet the video we just reviewed tells a different story." Caleb shifted on his feet. His lawyer leaned over and whispered something to him, but the judge raised his hand. "No interruptions. I'm not finished." Lisa sat beside me with her arms crossed. She didn't smile, but I saw the tightness in her shoulders finally relax. She leaned toward me and whispered, "He's in trouble." The judge lifted the file with the photos Caleb had submitted. "We will now open an investigation into the origin of these images. If they were falsified, submitted under false pretenses, or staged, there will be legal consequences: perjury, fraud, possible endangerment of a minor." Caleb finally spoke. "Your Honor, that video is taken out of context." The judge's eyes narrowed. "The context appears clear. You forcibly grabbed your daughter's arm and attempted to remove her from the home against her will. The child made it known she felt unsafe. That alone raises serious concerns." Caleb's lawyer tried again. "Your Honor, perhaps we should request a delay to further examine—" "No," the judge interrupted. Firm now. "This is not a debate. You brought these accusations into my courtroom, presented falsified evidence, and attempted to manipulate this court to sever a mother from her child. That is not something I will allow." I looked at Arya. She was hugging her knees, her face buried in them. Her guardian rubbed her back gently. She had held herself together through all of this, but I knew she was still just a child, trying to be brave in a world that shouldn't have required it. The judge turned back to me. "Ms. Bennett, based on the evidence presented today, I am dismissing the father's petition for full custody. Effective immediately, you are granted primary physical and legal custody of Arya Roston." My throat tightened. I didn't cry, not yet, but the relief hit me so hard I could barely hold it in. He continued, "Mr. Roston, you will be subject to supervised visitation only, pending the outcome of the investigation. A formal evaluation will be ordered, and any further visitation will depend on the findings. This court prioritizes the well-being of children above all else, and right now, your actions suggest you are not acting in your daughter's best interest." Caleb said nothing. The room stayed quiet as the judge finished his statement and banged the gavel. It was over. When I turned to Arya, she looked up at me with wide eyes. I knelt in front of her and took her hands. "You were so brave," I whispered. "You told the truth, and that helped the judge see everything clearly." She nodded but didn't speak. Her little fingers tightened around mine. We left the courthouse together. Outside, the sky was still gray, but the air felt different, like we were walking out from under a shadow. My mother was waiting by the curb, pacing. When she saw us, she ran over and wrapped us both in a hug so tight it took my breath away. "I knew the truth would come out," she said, "but I didn't expect it to come from that little tablet." Neither did I. I had walked into that courthouse terrified that I would lose the most important person in my life. I walked out knowing that no matter what Caleb tried, we had something stronger than his lies. We had the truth, and we had each other. The day after court, Arya slept in for the first time in weeks. She usually woke early, always buzzing with energy, asking about breakfast or cartoons or what we were doing that weekend. But that morning, she stayed curled up under her blanket, clutching her stuffed elephant, her chest rising and falling in slow, even breaths. I let her sleep. I sat alone in the kitchen, coffee untouched, the sunlight creeping in through the blinds. The silence felt different now, not empty, but calm, like the war in my body had finally ended. I wasn't bracing for the phone to ring. I wasn't refreshing my email waiting for the next court notice. For the first time in 2 years, I wasn't afraid of what Caleb might do next. Later that afternoon, Arya came into the kitchen and climbed into my lap. She didn't say anything at first, just leaned her head on my shoulder and held on. After a minute, she said, "I didn't know if I did the right thing." I held her tighter. "You did more than the right thing. You told the truth, and you were so strong." She looked up at me. "But I still feel scared sometimes." I nodded. That makes sense. What happened wasn't okay. You're allowed to feel scared. But we're safe now. No one's taking you away from me. That moment stayed with me, because as much as I wanted to slam the door on that chapter, healing doesn't follow a schedule. The court ruling gave us protection, but it didn't erase the damage. It didn't take away the nights Arya flinched when someone raised their voice, or the way I still checked the locks twice before going to bed, but it gave us something we hadn't had in a long time: control. I started taking Arya to a child therapist. Someone kind, someone who let her draw when she didn't have words. At first, Arya stayed quiet during sessions, but over time she opened up. She talked about what she saw, how it felt, and why she decided to record that night. One day, she told the therapist, "I just didn't want them to believe a lie." That sentence sat in my chest like a fire. She understood more than any child should, but she didn't let that make her bitter. She stayed kind, curious, and thoughtful. The damage her father tried to cause didn't define her. It sharpened her instincts, but it didn't harden her heart. As for me, I started speaking at local support groups. I never imagined myself in that role, but when I shared what had happened, the courtroom lies, the forged evidence, the moment my daughter stood up and took back our truth, I saw faces light up with recognition. Other women nodded, some cried. One woman approached me afterward and said, "I thought I was the only one." That broke something open in me. I knew I couldn't keep quiet. Caleb still sends messages. His attorney tried appealing the court's decision, but the video evidence shut that door fast. He's currently undergoing a custody evaluation, and until that's complete, his visitation remains supervised. There's no more overnight visits, no more manipulation, no more twisting the truth until I question my own memory. I still wake up some mornings with a tightness in my chest, but it passes. I remember that we got through it, that my daughter stood up in the face of fear and told the truth, even when it meant going against her own father, that I stood beside her, even when no one else believed me. People think strength is loud, that it's about yelling or fighting or standing tall no matter what. But strength, I've learned, is quieter than that. It's the decision to keep going when the world calls you a liar. It's holding your child's hand when your voice is shaking. It's choosing to believe in the truth when lies are easier to sell. If you take anything from our story, let it be this: truth has power, even in a courtroom stacked against you, even when the lies look polished and professional, even when you're tired, outnumbered, and heartbroken. Truth doesn't always shout. Sometimes it stands 4 feet tall, holding a pink tablet and says, "I recorded what really happened." That moment changed everything. For Arya, for me, and for every woman who's ever been told she's too emotional to be believed. We weren't weak. We were waiting for the right time to speak, and we did. If this story moved you, even just a little, please take a moment to like the video. It helps more people hear stories like mine, stories that are too often silenced or ignored. If you've ever been through something like this, or know someone who has, share this video. You never know who might need to hear it today. I read every single comment, so if you have a story, a question, or just want to say you believe survivors, leave a comment below. Your words matter more than you know. And if you want to hear more true, powerful stories like this one, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next one. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And most of all, thank you for believing in the truth.